Welcome to the Currents Up Close. I am Mayor Jim Brown, and I, along with Director Stephanie Sheets, want to communicate and update you regarding the University Avenue construction project. The goal of this presentation is to offer information to be helpful in what's currently happening and what is coming in the relative near future. As I've spoken with staff, council, and the general public, I believe there needs to be a higher level of success. There will be a higher level of success as the city conveys good communications on a consistent basis, but more on that later. This slide goes back to the purpose, or the goal of this presentation. The plan is for about 15 to 20 minutes covering some slides of the following topics. First is a brief project background. And let me add a few thoughts on this. Regardless of the design, what you are seeing needed to happen. The council decided, and now we are moving forward. The infrastructure needs to be replaced. Things such as pipes for water and sewer and utilities. Some of these are 50 years old and 25 feet below the current road. We could not keep kicking this can down the road. And as we'll describe later, the city acquired University Avenue just a couple of years ago. We will also cover Phase 1 construction and make ways of communicating available later in this presentation. Now I'd like to introduce Director Stephanie Sheets to continue with her section of the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of background on this project. In August of 2014 is really when it kicked off with the city being involved. Prior to that, the Iowa DOT owned that road. And so because they owned it, they were responsible for maintenance, overhauling the road. Anything that needed to be happening was the responsibility of the state. The city took over that responsibility in August of 2014. And then at that point, the council started discussing what priorities they had for how the road should be handled. Should there be some maintenance that occurs, or should we invest that money in doing a complete overhaul of the road? And if we were going to do that, what elements would be important to include? Should there be sidewalks? Should there be trails? Should all of the infrastructure underground be updated, just as the mayor was talking about? So those were some of the initial discussions that were held in May of 2014 as we were getting ready to take over the roadway. That poor condition of the road really necessitated action. And so once the city took ownership of the road, we started having public dialogue. There were a couple public meetings. There were also one-on-one meetings with property owners along the corridor talking about what needed to happen with the project and what concerns people had. Then in February 2015, the City Council chose the final concept, which then led into developing the design so that we could move into construction, which is where we are today. All of this happened within 16 months so that we could be under construction in 2016. So the project has moved very quickly to address the needs that we have in that corridor. And this project actually has started construction a lot earlier than many of our typical city projects. So far we've been having great weather, so we're very excited about the progress that we've been making, and we hope that that will continue. I want to go over the various phases of the project. Right now we're working in what we call Phase 1. That's what's been out to bid and where you see the contractor working. And that's generally between Grove Street and McLean Drive. Next year our goal is to start Phase 2, which would stretch from McLean Drive to Midway Drive. And then the following year, our goal would be to come back to what we call Phase 3, stretching from Main Street to Grove Street. That is all very weather dependent about the progress that we make, but that's generally our plan at this time. I wanted to zoom in a little bit more on Phase 1 and just orient folks to the area that we're really talking about today in more detail and what's under construction right now. This is the Phase 1 area, again, stretching from Grove Street to McLean Drive. And there you see a couple of the businesses labeled just to orient you a little bit about the area that we're talking about. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the details about the project. This just gives you an understanding of the magnitude of the project, tells you a little bit about how big the scope is and what we're working on, and also goes over some of the elements like the storm sewer and sanitary sewer, water main, things that needed to be done anyway because much of that is over 50 years old, and the pavement is as well. And so it reaches a point where it's worn out and we need to tear that out and put in new and replace that. The next couple slides just show you some of the things that have been happening already. Some of the utilities are being relocated. What that is underground we have wires for phone, we have cable, so CenturyLink, MediaCom, CFU fiber, those types of things are being moved out of the way and being replaced at the same time. We are also doing some pavement removals, and that's associated with, for example, when we need to move the lanes over and have one lane in each direction right next to each other. We need to get them across where that center median was. It's much like a highway project when you see on an interstate that they've paved the green in the middle, the green space in the middle there to get folks over to the other lanes of traffic. This slide shows some of the temporary pavement that went in. There was some water main work that was happening underneath that. So it was torn up a couple weeks ago and then pavement put back down so that people could once again be using it. So there's a fair amount of temporary pavement going in as we work through different areas and try to keep access open. We also are working on storm sewer. You've probably seen some of these pipes sitting out along the road, very large pipes, and we have a twin system going in underneath the ground, which is helping to take rainwater away. We have a large area of parking lot, roofs, where when it rains, that water needs to go somewhere, and this provides the avenue for that to get into a pipe underground and eventually get out into our rivers and streams because that's clean water coming from rain events. We also are working on sanitary sewer. That's the pipe that takes waste away from our homes and our businesses. If we're using the sink or the toilet, those types of things, they're going into these pipes and then they're getting piped into our water treatment plant where we treat it before it's discharged into the river. So those pipes, all of those again, mostly over 50 years old and need to be replaced. We're also working on water lines, a lot of water main that's been replaced. And typically when we're working on a road project, there are pipes that we refer to as mains. They are the larger pipe that carries a majority of water in this case, and then from there the private lines tap into that in order to get water into a home or into a business. And so those mains are being replaced at this point, and then services are being tapped into that, all as a part of the city's project. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what to expect going forward for the summer. This is just a large overview, and we'll talk about details about how you can learn from week to week what's happening. But in May of 2016, our goal is that the north lanes are closed and that all traffic moves to the south lanes. Again, access and traffic flow will remain open in both directions along University Avenue during a majority of the project. There could be times where the road is closed because we might have a temporary issue we need to take care of, but for the most part we're going to be allowing vehicles to travel both ways on University Avenue throughout the duration of the summer. So in May of 2016, the north lanes are closed, so all of that can be torn up and replaced, and traffic will be on the south side. That then weather dependent, we're having again very good weather right now, but if we continue to be successful, then the goal is in August of 2016 that the north lanes are opened and then the south lanes are closed. So what that means is that all the traffic will shift to the north side, again one lane in each direction. So it will remain open at all times, and then those south lanes are taken out and replaced with two lanes. If the weather continues to work well for us and cooperate, then the goal is by November of 2016 that both the north and the south lanes will be open, and we'll have two lanes traveling in each direction, and the roundabouts are completed at that point. At that point, we'll kind of button it up for the winter and come back to it in the spring, and in 2017 be working on the remainder of the project kind of outside of where traffic needs to be traveling, getting the sidewalks and the trails in place and installing the landscaping. So that will happen then in 2017, all weather dependent again. Now, in terms of how we're going to get information out over the summer about what's happening and changes that occur as we work in different areas of Phase 1, this is a map that will become very familiar to the public, we hope. It will be distributed a variety of ways. And what it shows is the primary area of construction occurring during that time. Also any closures that are happening where also there could be some construction occurring. And then finally, green routes for areas that will be open. What I want to emphasize here is that the map will always have a date on it along the bottom there. And every week we will be updating this map. As we get further into the project, when we have the lane closures, the map may not change much, but we will always update it every week so that you know that you are looking at the most current information. The way that you can access this information then is in the lower right-hand corner of the map, and we'll get into more of those details in a little bit, but this is how we're going to be distributing the map along with a couple other avenues each week. What I want to emphasize then is what the city is doing to try to keep University Avenue open and keep the business access open. This slide shows then just a zoom in of how we will convey on that map what lanes of traffic are open along University Avenue. That's the yellow area that shows how traffic is detoured just a little bit there, but again, University Avenue remains open. The next slide then shows how we're going to convey information about how you can access the businesses. The green lines show how you'd be able to get in and out to various businesses that will remain open throughout construction. There could be temporary closures, a day or two here or there. We're going to minimize those as much as possible and try to keep all of those open so that people can be visiting the businesses and doing the shopping that they need to do and supporting our businesses during this construction. The city has signs posted, and we will continue to have those posted, and those might change locations as we go along, but these are very typical construction type of signs that orient you to how to access the businesses, since that access is just a little bit changed with the work that's happening on the frontage roads.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'd like to touch on a few things with this last slide about supporting our local businesses. The city will have update meetings every other Tuesday starting March 29th. Right now, we are planning on these to take place at La James International College at the Holiday Plaza near West Music, Aldi, Buffalo Wild Wings, and so forth. The city staff and council want to be attentive and communicate with the public. I know it's no consolation to existing businesses that what we are seeing needs to happen for University Avenue, regardless of the design. That is why we are looking constantly for ideas and concerns for the specific stakeholders during this transition. Finally, this slide conveys the many ways from which the public can gather information. As Stephanie had just indicated, we have a specific website that gives detailed maps and descriptions. This will be updated regularly. A specific Facebook and Twitter page. The city will update plans in each of the current newsletter and the city bulletin and regular press releases to the Waterloo Courier. They're simply picking up the phone and sending an email. And the library will have maps and information posted at all times. And if all else fails, please call City Hall at 319-273-8600, and we will get you to the right person as soon as possible. So on behalf of Director Stephanie Sheets and myself, thank you for watching this edition of Cedar Falls Currents Up Close.